Welcome to this holiday edition of HBCU Game Day. I'm Tolly Carr, joined by Stephen J. Gaither. And Stephen, you know, we all want something for Christmas, but apparently a lot of coaches on the HBCU circuit, they want a head coach because we have a plethora of changes this month. And I don't even know where to start, but I guess the biggest one would be the Virginia State to Norfolk State connection. Now, Virginia State had an excellent year with Latrell Scott. They win the CIAA championship. They go to the playoffs. But he decided to make a change. Big surprise there, would you say?
Well, I mean, it's not really that big of a surprise if you think about it. Latrell Scott started his coaching career at some FCS schools. His first head coaching job was actually as an FCS coach at Richmond, where he coached there a year before he ran into some legal trouble. So, you know, he has an FCS background. He went to Hampton when they were transitioning to Division I. So I think it's no surprise that he's back at that level. Obviously, I'm sure the folks at Virginia State wish that he would have stayed a little bit longer, given the success that he gave that program in such a quick jolt. But it's kind of the business of football. He moved on to the next big thing.
So where do you see the Virginia State program? Obviously, they're coming off a big year. They found a new man at quarterback right there late in the season, right at the CIAA championship game. So a lot of promise there, but a switch in the head coach. Do you still expect big things from the Trojans next year as they first now must find themselves a new coach?
Right. I mean, that's going to be the question for those guys. I mean, you look last year at Winston-Salem State. I mean, they lost their coach, Connell Maynard, who'd been there for 4 years, and they were able to get back to the championship game. So I think it's going to be a matter of who stays and who comes on new. A lot of times when the coach transitions to another school, he'll take some of those players with him. Will he take a guy like the freshman who led them to the championship game? You don't know. You never really can tell, and who's going to stay and who's going to come back. But I think that job, he's made it a much better job now than it was when he took it 2 years ago. And a name I'm starting to hear thrown around with that maybe Henry Frazier, who was formerly coach at Bowie State, the coach at Prairie View, and then the coach at North Carolina Central until a couple years ago. So keep an eye out for those rumors of Henry Frazier to Virginia State in the next couple of days.
All right, let's go down to Alabama State. They have a new man on the job as well.
Right, Alabama State, they did what a lot of people didn't think that they could do as late as last week, and that's pull Brian Jenkins away from Bethune-Cookman. Most people assumed that Brian Jenkins, if he left Bethune-Cookman, would be going to a Division I program on the FBS level, or at least a higher FCS level team. But a lot of people were surprised that another HBCU was able to pull him, especially in the SWAC. He's led this team to the playoffs multiple times in his career, and he was the highest paid HBCU coach heading into this year. So, but they've got a new stadium out there in Montgomery. They've got a lot of talented players, and there was talk before the season last year about them possibly going to the playoffs if they didn't, if they were eligible. Eligibility problems came into play and they didn't get to do that. But, it could be a situation where he knows a little bit more than everyone else does at this point about the direction of Alabama State football.
All right, let's go down to the Sunshine State. You're watching HBCU Game Day, a special coaches edition, the Coaches Carousel edition. Things are still spinning down there at FAMU. The ride hasn't stopped and they don't have a coach, and looking for a full-time athletic director after Kellen Winslow Sr. Resigned as well. So a lot of change up in the air, still looking to see where things will fall there for the Rattlers, Steve.
Right, exactly. I mean, this is one of the premier franchises of black college football. They've been down the last couple of years, and I mean, last year was just a soap opera and in the season, and it's continuing into the offseason. You have Kellen Winslow, resigning this week. He'd only been on the job 6 months, so that's quite of a turnaround. In that time, they have let go of Earl Holmes, and so now they're trying to figure out who's going to be their coach. 2 of their candidates have already taken jobs, and you have the coach Corey Fuller, who was the interim coach, told the media earlier this week that he wasn't one of the finalists. Now he's kind of backtracked on that, and he even had his friend Uncle Luke Campbell to talk for him and promote him as coach. So you know, it's going to be interesting to see what those guys are going to do down there at FAMU, because a lot of eyes are going to be on them.
Well, it's safe to say things take an interesting turn when Uncle Luke is involved in any capacity as a spokesperson for your head football coach. So we'll see where that one goes. But overall, there's even more changes. We have new coach there at Prairie View, a good friend of mine, and I know you have an emotional connection here. Former Winston-Salem State coach Kermit Blunt and his staff let go at Delaware State. On that staff, former Winston-Salem State quarterback, one of the greatest, along with Kermit Blunt at that position. Torrey Woodbury was on that staff, so they're all out there. And Stephen, this month has, I don't know, can you remember a month like this where this many coaches between the SWAC, the MEAC, CIAA, just up in the air and people coming and going?
Well, I mean, you know, the last couple of years that I've been covering this, it has been a lot of comings and goings, but not so much in the same week. You know, usually it'll be, you know, one this week, one next week. But I mean, you talk about from Monday morning, you had Kermit Blunt getting, you know, getting his exit papers. You had Latrell Scott, you know, the story we broke on HBCUGameday.com with him taking over for NSU. You had Brian Jenkins the next day, who, you know, that he was coming down and taking the Alabama State job. Kellen Winslow, of course, in the middle of all of this. And, you know, there's still some more holes to fill. I mean, you know, FAMU still looking for a coach. Delaware State. You know, the MEAC in particular is going to be interesting because I've counted 6 coaches that ended the 2013 season that won't be with their teams when they start the 2015 season. So we'll have as many as 6 coaches with 2 years or less experience in the MEAC next year. So that's going to be interesting to watch.
All right, you know, I'd love to put you on the spot, Stephen. So let's take a look at it from this perspective. If you had to say who was the biggest winner, who was the biggest loser in this latest round of coaching changes, what would you say?
Alabama State, without a question. Brian Jenkins has come in and he's, you know, proved himself to be a good FCS coach. And, you know, you think about the tools he had there. Bethune-Cookman, they're playing in Municipal Stadium, which only seats 10,000, is an older venue. And then you look at what he's going to have to work with at the new stadium there in Montgomery, and it's just a world away from there. You know, he's going to be able to bring recruits and say, hey, you know what? I've won championships. I've went to the playoffs. I know what it takes to win. Come here. You'll play in great facilities, you know, great atmosphere, and you'll love it. So I think that he's definitely by far the biggest winner. Alabama State. Also, Norfolk State, I think they had a real gem in Latrell Scott because he's been, not only has he been an FCS coach before, but he's a Virginia guy, so he knows all the hot spots in recruiting. And so he's going to be able to come right in, already have a built-in network, and now he'll have the FCS, you know, behind him and more scholarships.
All right, so you got to give me a loser now. Who, even if not necessarily a new coach makes you a loser, but who's right now in flux because they don't have somebody? And I'm thinking FAMU. What are you thinking?
Yeah, you're going to have to say FAMU because, you know, you look at them and they're the biggest name out there that was looking for a head coach. And 2 of the candidates that they were really looking at are gone. They don't have an athletic director. And, I mean, at this point, they're going to have to pull out somebody big out of the water to change that, just because if they could get Joker Phillips, who used to coach at Kentucky, then I think that would be a good hire for them. But they're going to have to do something because that fan base is not going to sit by idly while everyone else is picking new coaches and moving on with their program. I mean, we're getting into where it's almost January. You know, you're going to be into the recruiting season soon, and you don't want to be putting in a brand new coach, you know, as just time to sign recruits.
All right, well, Stephen J. Gaither, Tolly Carr here for HBCU Game Day. We'll keep you up to date if there are any more changes. And Stephen, hopefully soon we can start talking hoops as the new year gets here and we get knee-deep in the conference play in the CIAA, the MEAC, and the SWAC, and the SIAC as well. So looking forward to that, but you never know. This football season seems like it's just going to go year-round with all the changes that they're having.
It definitely does, you know, but that's the fun of it, you know, we only get 3 months of college football, and it seems like it goes by in such a blur, but this kind of keeps it with us a little bit, so I'm all for it.
All right, happy holidays to you and your family. For Stephen J. Gaither, I'm Tolly Carr. We'll talk to you soon right here on HBCUGameday.com.